Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we continue training and mentoring the Manchester University Wasp Team as we go into a local backyard at a private residence to take on a very aggressive Southern Yellowjacket nest. These are Vespula squamosa. These are a very beneficial insect here in the Midwest of the USA and North America. They're native species and they're good for the environment because they're pollinators and they're also biological control agents that hunt pest insects all throughout the season. So we collect them also for Venom Immunotherapy, and that's always the first phase we do, and that's what you see here. The second phase is digging out the brood comb, which we will then take back to the barn lab to incubate. In this episode, we're going to show you how we experiment with a CO2 tank and fill the nest cavity with CO2 gas before we dig it out. The reason we did this is because we wanted to harvest as many of the wasps in that brood as possible for Venom Immunotherapy, especially the new queens. Usually when you open up a nest cavity, the new queens will attempt to flee and fly away. Instinctually, they just take off running and flying. In this case, we were able to prevent that by using the CO2 gas. As you can see here, the CO2 gas knocks out the wasps for a few minutes, and that gave us a chance to collect every single queen in this nest. And that's important because queens have venom sacs, so they're good for Venom Immunotherapy. Because of all the dirt and debris on a ground nest dig like this, we can't just put a vacuum down there and vacuum up all of the queens. So we had to come up with a better way to do it, which was CO2 gas. So here we could take our time, collect all the queens before they woke up, and get them all contained. In order to be useful for Venom Immunotherapy, all of our specimens have to be collected alive, be uninjured, and the collections have to be clean, no debris. So here you see the team getting these specimens ready to freeze in dry ice. And once they are frozen in dry ice, their venom is preserved at the highest quality possible for biomedical use, or Venom Immunotherapy in this case. Dry ice is simply frozen CO2. Once we have the specimens frozen, we take the brood comb and we transport it back to our barn lab, and we begin to separate out all of the components in the nest. And we do this by using CO2 gas again, knocking out whatever's in that container, separating the brood comb as you see here. This will be incubated so that as they hatch out all of these extra pupae in this nest, we can collect them later for VIT. In the meantime, the last of the wasps in here are separated. Here's another batch of queens we pulled out of this container, and here's a batch of males. Since the males have no venom and no venom sac and no stinger, they cannot be used for Venom Immunotherapy. But we can use them in a breeding program. We can use them to breed new queens if we want to raise this species in our lab, or we can release them during mating season in the wild, or they can be dried and kept as specimens for speaking engagements and education. For now, let's take you back to October 13th and 14th of 2025, and we'll show you the entire job. As always, thanks for riding along with us. If you enjoy the content on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. All right, it's October 13th, 2025, and we are at a newly purchased home. It's a home that was just taken off the market. A buyer has bought it, and they did their first landscaping up here. They haven't moved in yet, but when one of them did landscaping here, they were attacked by this nest. It is a nest of Southern Yellowjackets. And it looks like the animals beat us to it and dug it up a little bit, but it's still active, so we're gonna go ahead and remove this one tomorrow. But the animals definitely tore it up a little bit in the meantime. And maybe they'll hit it again tonight. So we'll see how the animals do overnight, and we'll come back in the morning and mop up whatever's left. Southern Yellowjackets for sure. You can see them chewing on this plant material and wood to try and make paper to rebuild their nest. October 14th, 2025, and we're here doing a collection on a Southern Yellowjacket nest. It's up on a hillside in a backyard of a private residence. And an animal had already opened up some of the nest. So the hole in the ground was much larger than usual. So it makes collection a little bit more challenging because it's a wide space to cover. But what we're doing is just allowing the collection device to collect all of the active foragers. And now we're just collecting the attacking workers, and then we'll dig them out. Once all the workers have been collected, or at least a lot of them have been collected over the next hour or so. So we call this part of the removal phase 1. And during the phase 1, we simply collect everything that's flying. Any attacking wasps, any foragers, anything going to and from the nest. We interrupt their flight path and we capture them right out of the air with the vacuum extraction device. This is a crucial first step, not only to collect them for venom immunotherapy, but also to control the environment we're working in. So we've got the initial attackers collected, but because this one had an animal attack that opened up part of the nest and destroyed part of their entry hole, we got a real head start on this one. So as we look into the nest cavity and begin to remove some of the debris, not necessarily digging the nest yet, but just getting debris out of the way, we begin to see the clear circular definition of the brood comb at the bottom of the nest. And you can see the gap pretty clearly between the nest and the side of the earth wall. That's created by the wasps so they can move around the outside of the nest while underground. The nest is partially exposed, and that's only because it had been dug partially by animals. Normally all of this would be covered up, and there'd only be a small hole like you see on the right center frame here. That hole is the tunnel that would typically lead down into the entry of the nest, but because the nest had been partially opened up, it was a little bit chaotic as to where they were coming and going from inside that nest. So they were in the process of rebuilding and reorganizing and defending the nest now that it had been opened up. And you can see how much of the cavity here is exposed. Normally we don't see this much cavity until we dig quite a bit of earth out of the way. But here the animals did us a favor and removed the whole top part of the earth for us. I can smell the maple syrup attack pheromone venom scent. Very strong maple syrup smell. Very unique to Southern Yellowjackets. So the initial attackers that went airborne right away have mostly been collected now. So at this point we're getting close to when we'll do the dig. But first we're going to stomp them out a little bit, start a swarm and attack response for all the ones that are in the nest hiding. And we'll collect those for sure before we start the dig, just to make it a little bit easier to dig without being attacked and causing a swarm. So here we've already hit the ground very hard with a shovel around the entry hole. And as you can see, that stirred them up quite a bit and more of them came out to attack. So the second half of phase 1 is stimulating an attack response by just vibrating the ground and making noise and stomping around the entry point. And this brings them out. And we'll do this for several rounds until there's just no more significant attack response. And then it'll be time for phase 2, which is digging out the brood comb. So you'll notice that Southern Yellowjackets are very aggressive. They keep attacking the device. They keep hovering around in kind of a mad frenzy. And we move the device spout to face upward. Sometimes we face it sideways, sometimes we face it down, and we just experiment with what seems to collect them most efficiently. And here, turning it upward seemed to get the best response. We were collecting more of them quicker that way. So we're constantly adjusting the gear during the removal for efficiency. It just makes things quicker and easier to find the most efficient system possible. And that just takes observation. You have to pay attention. You can't just set it up once and walk away. You have to make sure you're monitoring the gear because things change and you have to respond to those changes. Definitely some new queens in there. I see one trying to come out right here. There she is right there. There's a couple of queens in there creeping around. Try to capture them as they come out. Whenever the nest is destroyed, the queens naturally flee, all the new queens. So you'll see a lot of these new queens trying to bail out of the nest all at once. So we just keep stirring them up and collecting them, stirring them up, collecting them. We'll keep that up a little while here. So the attack response is a result of vibration underground, noise, and motion. So that's why we use the shovel technique. Not many left in there with much fight in them. As fewer and fewer are available to fight and release the attack pheromone, everything starts to calm down because we're getting them all collected now. So as you can see here, things started to slow down at this point. So we're coming to the end of phase one. They're no longer responding to the shovel. They're no longer really in attack mode. They're just kind of holding. Those that are on the nest are staying on the nest, and those that are out of the nest have been collected. So it's time for phase two. All right, today we're here with Katie from the Manchester University Wasp Team. She's going to assist on this dig today. So what we're going to do is an experiment here. We're going to take this board with a hole in it, and we're going to put it right over that nest cavity, dead center of the hole over the hole. And then we are going to put some CO2 gas. Here's our CO2 tank. We're going to put some gas right through the hole, gas it very heavily, and try to pull it out quickly. That way we'll lose fewer of the new queens. There's many queens in there right now. If we disturb the nest, the queen's instinct, the new queens, is to immediately flee the nest and fly away because they're supposed to go and mate and start their own nest after they hibernate. And we're going to try to knock them all out, get them all out in the layers of the comb and put them in the bin before they can do that. That's the plan anyway. We've never tried this. We're going to try it today just for fun. See if it works. All right, does it seem like it's on the right spot? It's a little awkward on this hillside, but we'll do our best. You feel like it's right over the whole center? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's start with that, and we'll gas it. Okay. Okay, crank it up. It'll blast real hard. Lower it. Okay, a little higher. Right there, leave it there. Step on both of these sides if you can. CO2 gas goes downward. It replaces the oxygen by dropping down into any cavity and replacing the oxygen. Due to the vacuum noise, the dialogue's a little hard to hear. What we're discussing here is that CO2 gas drops downward into any cavity and replaces the oxygen down there, and it's very cold. Both of those things affect the nest and can knock the wasps right out. That may not be enough to reach them all, but we'll see. See how it's all white and frozen. So let's start digging and putting it right in the bin. Let me show them this up close. You see how it's all white and froze? That's what's going on. So we're gonna dig away the dirt now and get it right in the bin. Go from this side. There you go. Great. Big cavity. Big cavity. Great. Dig as fast as you can, because the gas doesn't last too long. Good. I'm going to try to get the whole thing out intact so we can get all the queens in those layers. Okay, here we go. Lift it up, shake it up. I'm going to put it right in the bin. Shake it off. We want minimal dirt. Okay, good. Drop it in.
Look at that.
Perfect. Start dropping the queens in. Minimal dirt. You see these big queens? It's a very large nest. Lots of new queens. You see all the orange ones in there that are knocked out. We're going to hope they wake up in a few minutes. But for right now, we got a ton of new queens in here. Big multi-layered nest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 layers. See any more queens?
Yeah.
Or any more comb layers?
I didn't see any more comb.
Okay. Keep digging for any hidden queens. Just make sure there's no more cavities that they're tunneling through. There's another queen right there, the orange one. There you go. Pop her in. She'll be viable. Nice. Nobody's stirring yet. You got some time. So you see all these new queens, these big orange wasps. Those are the queens. You can tell who they are when you compare them size-wise to the workers. They're quite a bit larger and they're a lot more orange colored. All these big queens. You see the queen next to the worker. Some of these are males probably also by now. So Katie's digging out all the queens she can find. And then we'll have to observe these and see if the gas was weak enough that we were able to revive them. And that remains to be seen. Hopefully they'll all wake up and we can capture them for venom immunotherapy. That looks pretty good. I think that'll do. So now we can refill it and spray it down. Hey, there's another one. Good job. All right, if you could do me a favor and now pop this open. That looks pretty good. Let's pop open the queen cage and start collecting queens in it from our bin. So we're gonna go through here and we're gonna grab up all these sleeping queens. And just pop them into the queen cage and see how many we get. If you can't get the dexterity, that's okay, we'll just skip this. But if you can get any without damaging them too much, it'd be interesting to see how many we can collect. Try to get just the queens, no debris.
Yeah, I'm not picking up very well.
Yeah, I didn't bring my tweezers, unfortunately.
Just 2 layers of gloves.
Yeah, no worries. It's just a little bit difficult. Okay, let me get them back out of there. We're collecting a big collection of queens here. They're starting to wake up, it looks like. So go as fast as you can, collecting those queens. Let me see what you got so far. Nice. All queens in there. Looks good.
I think I got one. It's not, but
See how they're starting to wake up now and move around. So let's go ahead and
look at that.
there's new queens just born on the nest. They go in and hide their heads inside the cells after they're first pupated out.
I can't get them.
Yeah, no worries. You can't get those guys. Here's another big queen. And any one of these really could be the main queen from the nest. So we don't really know which is which. Should have brought my big tongs.
Yeah.
Can't really pick anything up this way. All right, so you did a good job. You got a bunch of them. So if you can get any more, great. There's a couple more laying in there. Let's see what you got. Yeah, looks good. Let's get the debris out. Pull that debris if you can. That one right there. There you go. Now you can see the difference in size here. All right, let's close it up. Thanks. So there's several more queens in there. We'll deal with them later. For now, let's get our spray and spray down what's in the hole. But good job. Here's a whole bunch of queens.
It's maybe about
Check that out. That's
half
pretty cool.
of what we had.
They'll wake up here in a minute. They're starting to stir. All right, so let's get them down here with the nest and we'll start doing some spray. Put them right in the sun. See if it'll stir them awake. They're starting to wake back up in there after the gas exposure. So now we're treating this with essential oils. So we're just going to take the dirt out for a minute, reach the bottom of the cavity, and then layer in the dirt with some of this essential oil mix. It's soap and water and essential oil. There's no toxins at all, because you just don't need toxins at all to deal with wasps. And this will just be a deterrent. It'll kill whatever's left in there. That's good. This will kill whatever's left in there on contact. And it will knock out some of their pheromone. Okay, now we can fill in a layer of dirt, do the same thing. Try not to inhale this stuff. So you can back off while we spray if you want. So after each layer that Katie puts in, we just soak everything down real well. And that allows for any wasps that are hiding in that dirt to get killed immediately on contact, and knocks the pheromone out on everything we put back in the nest. So we're just going to spray down the hillside around it where we have pheromone. And some wasps. So you never need toxins. You don't need poisons of any kind. Oil, soap, and water. That's it. For any species of wasps on the planet. All right, Katie. I think we did it.
All right.
Kind of simple one on this one. That gas worked.
Yeah, it worked really well.
All right, done and done. All right, so Katie is holding on to our queen collection. As you can see here, they have woken up quite well. And we got a lot of them contained very easily with the CO2 gas. So this is a pretty good technique. I think we'll use it again in the future to make ground collection a little bit quicker and easier. And we lose less of the live specimens that way. They don't fly away as quickly, and we can catch a lot more of them between the layers of comb. All right, thanks. So Katie's capping off our collection, which is a good collection today. Got a lot out of there, so that's great. So we'll get those frozen up for Venom Immunotherapy. It's a good specimen to have, this species, for Venom Immunotherapy, because they're just such stingers. They come out and they sting like crazy immediately. They attack immediately, and they're in the ground often, so they surprise people. So a lot of people get stung by these mowing the lawn, doing lawn work just like this client did. So let's go freeze them. All right, here's our collection from the ground nest, Southern Yellowjackets. And some queens from that nest as well. And here's the nest itself. Pretty good sized nest. Multiple layers, a lot of queens, a lot of workers. We'll pupate out the rest of that back at the vestiary. All right, we're putting our queens and our other collection in the ice. Perfect. All right, so that job is all done. As you can see, hillside's been refilled, the hole's been refilled, and there's a few foragers coming back now, and they can't land in that oil without dying. And if they try to dig through to where their pheromone used to be, they will die in the process, and they'll starve out over the next couple days, anything that comes back, because they can't survive without the rest of the brood comb. Okay, we're back at the barn lab, and we now have the nest contained, and what we're going to do now is gas the remaining wasps that are in here. And there's a bunch of them, queens and workers both. So we're going to gas them with CO2, and we're going to knock them out and then separate them from the brood comb. And we'll freeze the wasps, and we'll put the brood comb into a container for incubation. Let's finish gassing them. So you see they're all knocked out. So what we do now is we just shake them out into, oops, too much dirt. First we shake them out, separate the brood combs. Lots of queen cells left. Still plenty of queens to pupate out of this nest. paper. It's pretty tough paper they make. Probably started out as maculifrons, but then became southern after the parasitic queen, the southern queen, killed the maculifrons queen and started raising their own in the nest. That's often what happens with this species. Okay, now we're going to sort these out and get the debris out and freeze them. So we've just separated out all of the queens from the remaining wasps that are still just waking up from the CO2 gas. Here's all the queens in this container. As you can see, they're all starting to wake up now. So we're going to freeze them in dry ice. And the rest of them are waking up here. And we have other jobs to do today, so we don't have time to separate them all at this point. We'll deal with them later in the day after we do some other jobs. But the queens, we wanted to get out of there quickly and freeze them up. So what we have left in the container here are some workers, but mostly males. You can tell the males from their long floppy antennas and their extended bodies. The males tend to stay on the nest until very late in the season when they get kicked out to go mate. Because a lot of these are males, we probably will not collect them for venom immunotherapy. For comparisons purposes, you see how they have long bodies and curled antennas. They're long floppy curly antennas, that's a male. For comparison's sake, here's a female worker on the left. And you can see the difference in the long bodies of the males on the top of the frame compared to the little worker on the bottom. Here's a couple female workers, much smaller than our long males that have floppy antennae. Typically this time of year, the males would go out and mate, and then they'd immediately die. And the female queens that they mate with, the new queens born in the nest at the end of the season, would hibernate and store their sperm over the winter, and then utilize the sperm that they store in their bodies to begin laying eggs in springtime nests. So here we have a container pretty much full of male Southern Yellowjackets, but they can't be used for venom immunotherapy, unfortunately, because they have no venom sacs. So at this time of year, what would typically happen in the nest is they'd get kicked out of the nest because they're just loafing around, taking up resources, and they're not really very productive as far as bringing in anything for the nest. So the females kick them out, and they go and mate, and then they die. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for riding along with us. As always, if you enjoy the content on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one.